She had always avoided that road, even when she was younger, even when she didn't understand why. Something inside her told her to stay away from the old house that stood alone at the edge of the long, cracked asphalt. People in town whispered about it, but no one ever said anything clear. They spoke in half sentences and glances, in warnings disguised as jokes. And every time she passed by, even from far away, she felt the same cold pressure in her chest, as if the house itself was watching her. Years passed and she grew older, but the house never changed. It remained frozen in time with its broken windows, its leaning porch, and its door that always seemed slightly open, as if waiting for someone to step inside. She never planned to go near it. She never wanted to. But life has a way of pushing people exactly where they don't want to be. It happened on a late afternoon, when the sky was turning orange and the wind carried the smell of rain. She was driving home when her car suddenly began to shake. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died right there on the road, only a few meters away from the house she feared the most. She tried to restart it, but the key turned uselessly. The silence that followed felt heavier than the air around her. She looked at the house, and the house looked back. She didn't want to get out. She didn't want to walk toward it. But her phone had no signal, and the nearest neighbor was miles away. The wind grew stronger, pushing leaves across the road, and the first drops of rain tapped against the roof of her car. She took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped out. The closer she walked, the more she felt it, an invisible pull like the house was drawing her in. The air grew colder. The wind stopped. Even the sound of the rain seemed to fade. She reached the porch, hesitated, and placed her hand on the old wooden railing. It felt warm, as if someone had touched it just moments before. The door creaked open wider, slowly, silently, inviting her inside. She stepped into the darkness. The air smelled of dust and something else she couldn't identify. The floorboards groaned under her feet. The house felt abandoned, yet strangely alive. She walked deeper, guided by a faint light coming from a room at the end of the hallway. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears, but she kept moving, unable to stop herself. When she reached the room, she froze. There, in the center, stood a small wooden table. On it lay a single object, a photograph. She approached slowly, her breath trembling. When she picked it up, her hands began to shake. It was a picture of her. Not as she was now, but as a child, standing in front of the very same house, wearing the same clothes she remembered losing on a trip she barely recalled. Behind her, in the picture, stood a woman whose face was blurred, as if the camera had refused to capture her clearly. She felt a presence behind her. She turned around. No one was there, but the door she had entered through was now closed. The house seemed to breathe. She stepped back, clutching the photograph, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. The walls felt closer. The air felt heavier. She tried to move toward the hallway, but her legs refused to obey. Something was holding her in place. Something she couldn't see. Something that had been waiting for her for years. Then she heard it. A whisper. Soft. Too close. You came back. Her blood turned to ice. She didn't recognize the voice, yet it felt familiar, like a memory she had buried long ago. The whisper came again, this time from the corner of the room. You left me here. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The shadows in the room shifted, stretching, forming the outline of a figure, The blurred face from the photograph seemed to emerge from the darkness slowly, painfully, as if the house itself was giving it shape. "You forgot me," the voice said. She stumbled backward, dropping the photograph. It landed face up on the floor, the image staring at her like an accusation. The figure stepped closer, its presence cold enough to burn. She reached for the door, desperate, terrified, but the handle wouldn't turn. The house groaned, the walls trembled, and the whisper grew louder, filling the room, filling her mind. "You left me alone." The lights flickered, the shadows twisted. The figure reached out and everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was lying on the road, rain pouring over her face. Her car was gone, the house was gone. The entire landscape looked different, as if she had woken up somewhere else entirely. She stood up slowly, confused, trembling, and looked around. There was nothing but silence. But when she looked down at her hand, she felt her heart stop. She was still holding the photograph, and now the blurred face in the picture was perfectly clear. It was hers.